it on the screen here. I think everybody can see it. And of course, I'm showing you chapter 6. So let's just scroll up. Oh, we're working wonders tonight on the tech side of things. Okay, so if you remember, we plowed through 3 chapters last week. So we're into the 5th chapter tonight. We're going back to dealing with hotza'ah, with carrying things on Shabbat. But it is in the context of animals, because animals are not allowed to do malacha for us. They're not allowed to do forbidden labors for us, and that includes, therefore, carrying things. So fundamentally, things which are begadim, things which are clothes for an animal, or they are protection for an animal, even if they are protecting the animal for the owner's benefit, they will be mutter. They will be permitted for animals to walk around in. They will not be what is called in Hebrew a masui, a burden. If it's a burden, then it would be forbidden for them to carry. Now, it's very interesting. I've been in 2 minds whether to share this very sexist joke, which someone told me a long time ago. I'll look for nods or shaking heads in the gallery over here as to whether to go for it. But
yes, go for it.
Yeah, all right. So it goes.
You're being recorded.
Yeah, I know I'm being recorded. The trouble is that not only is it very sexist, but it is actually written in one of the commentaries on the Mishnah, apparently. I haven't seen it inside myself, but apparently the question is asked why Bamer Behema, this perek that we're about to do, of talking about what an animal can go out with, comes before the chapter which talks about women and what they can go out with, right? So the question gets asked, why do women come before men? And that's because they have many more things, as we'll see in the Mishnah, that they could be carrying on Shabbos, more adornments, more jewelry, more items. So that is one of the reasons why the Mishnah prioritizes women before men. But the astounding comment, which doesn't really run too well nowadays, is why do animals come before women? And the answer that apparently it gives is because animals would need to go out more frequently than women would. Which, there we go. It's we have to say it because ultimately it's Torah as well. But it does raise a few eyebrows nowadays, I think, that one. But there we go. If we've learned nothing else tonight, we've learned the commentary of the Tiferes Yisrael, which apparently says that it deals with things that would go out more regularly. So animals apparently go out more regularly than women do, or at least in the time in the Mishnah. Anyway, we continue with chapter 5. Maybe we will edit that one out. We'll see. So we continue with chapter 5. Bamer bahema yotza uvamer eina yotza. What is an animal allowed to go out with on Shabbos? What is it allowed to wear? And what is it not allowed to wear? So the Mishnah answers, Yotze hagamal ba'afsar. A camel is allowed to go out with an afsar, which is like a bit that would go around the mouth of the camel and would allow it to be led by the owner. So it's allowed to go out with that kind of noose or rein or whatever you might call it inside its mouth. And a na'aka, a female camel, is allowed to go out with a khatam, which is a nose ring. Apparently the female camels are a bit more difficult to control than male camels, and so they are allowed to go out with these nose rings, which again would be attached to a leash. But if it's not attached to a leash, it can still go out with the nose ring attached to its nose, and so it would be allowed to go out with that. Says the Mishnah, "V'lubdakim b'parumbia." A Libyan donkey is allowed to go out with its bit or with its bridle, again something that goes around the mouth of the animal to be able to connect it to a collar or a leash or whatever it is. Sus basher, a sus is allowed to go out with its chain, with its collar. And anything that would wear a chain and would go out with a chain and would be led by a chain is allowed to be taken out and led by a chain on Shabbos. And says the Mishnah, and also not only that, but if the chain or these accoutrements, I don't know if that's the right word, but if these adornments needed to be sprinkled as part of a purification process, or if they needed to be put into a mikveh to purify them, you could keep them around the animal and still do the required process to those items, even while they are attached to the animal. So that is Mishnah Aleph, and we move on to Mishnah Base. Chamor yotzei b'mardas. The donkey is allowed to go out with its saddle. Bisman shikshur alo. As long as it is, oh, hello, you forgot to tell me to move on. As long as it is tied to the animal. Because if it's not, then it runs the risk of slipping. And if it runs the risk of slipping, you'll end up carrying it and all the rest of it. So as long as it has been tied to the donkey, you're allowed to take it out with it on Shabbos. So it had to have been tied before Shabbos, and if it has been, you'd be allowed to take it out on Shabbos. Zacharim yotzin levuvim. If you have got rams, you can take them out if they have got these pouches, these leather pouches that would be tied to cover the ram's member, the ram's genitalia. So there's all kinds of reasons why they would do this, either because they don't want the animal to be too excitable when it's in the company of female animals, or maybe there's some kind of reason for protecting it, whatever it may be. These rams would be allowed to go with these pouches strapped to their bodies. Rechelos yotzes shechuzos. Use. Is that right? Have I got that right? Yes, good. Ewes, female sheep, would be allowed to go out with their tails tied up, or kavulos, or with their tails tied down, or kavunos, or with their tails covered. So in all of these instances, farmers or the owners of these animals would want to leave tails in various positions depending on whether they wanted the animals to be mating together or not. So in all of these instances, you'd be allowed to take out the animal in those ways. Ha'izim yotzos saruros, and a goat may go out with their udders tied up. And it talks about there, we're talking about because you're trying to protect the milk that might ooze out, or if you're just trying to protect the udders, that gets talked about as well, and that is why we have the statement in the Mishnah as follows. Rabbi Yossi Osa b'chula. Rabbi Yossi said that in all of these instances it would be forbidden, chutz min harachelos hakavunos, except for taking out a ewe with a covering, like with a protective covering that's going around its body. That would be kind of a protective coat, and in that instance it would be allowed. So he takes a very strong stance towards these other things because it would be unnecessary burdens that the animal would be considered to be carrying. And according to Rabbi Yehuda Omer, izin yotzes saruros liyavesh, goats would be allowed to go out if the purpose of tying up their udders was to dry up their milk, but if it was there to kind of catch anything that drips down, then according to Rabbi Yehuda, it would not be allowed, it would be an unnecessary burden, and it would be considered carrying on the Sabbath. Says Mishnah Gimel, talking about things which are not clothes, which are not jewelry, which are not there to protect. So the Mishnah asks, Uvama Eino Yotza, what things is an animal not allowed to go out with on Shabbos? Says the Mishnah, Lo Yetze Gamal V'Mutu Teles. A camel is not allowed to go out with this cushion. That's interesting. I had it as a cushion for the hump, but the picture that I've got over here has it as a cushion for a tail. So that's what the Mishnah says over there. What does it say in our thing? The camel may not go out with a pad. Okay. So it's a kind of, again, in the picture over here, it's some kind of covering that they would put on the camel's tail. And it also says, Lo akud v'lo ragul. It can't go out with its feet tied in the following way. Akud, right, which comes from the word akeda, which is what we talk about with Yitzchak and the akeda. So the way you would tie up something for an akeda, the way we say that Yitzchak would have been tied up, is to have had his hand and his foot on one side tied together, and his hand and his foot on his right side tied together. That is what is called akud. I could give you a demonstration, but we are live on YouTube. But let's do it. All right, that would be akud. Hey, don't say I don't do anything for you. So that's akud, and velo ragul, and ragul would be where you fold up the camel's leg and you tie it around itself, and it's a way of being able to control the movement of the animal on Shabbos. So the Mishnah says, not on Shabbos, on any time, you're not allowed to take out a camel in this way. V'chein shar kol habahemos, and the same is the case with other animals as well. Says the Mishnah, lo yiksha gemalim zeh bazeh v'yimshach, that you're not allowed to tie up. You're not allowed to tie up these camels in a line. So to have one camel connected to the next, in a kind of caravan of camels. And the reason for that is because you would look like you're going to the market. So it's an issue of maris ayin. It's an issue of what people might think if they were to see that you were going out with your camels in this way. You cannot have them being led in a caravan because of the impression that it gives off. But you would be allowed to gather all of the leashes, all of the leads of these camels, and to hold them bunched in one go. So you've got the camels shooting off in every direction, and you're holding the leashes in one go. You would be allowed to do that, but the Mishnah says, as long as you don't kind of twist them up and wrap them around your arm, because the problem there might be that they're made of different materials. And if they're made of different materials, you run the risk of benefiting from shatnez. You run the risk of benefiting from forbidden mixtures which have been twisted together in order for you to be able to lead these donkeys. So that is Mishnah Gimel. And we move on to Mishnah Dalet. Says the Mishnah Dalet, Ein chamor yotze. Oh, yeah.
Question. Why are they taking these animals out in the first place? They can't burden them. They can't ride them. Is it just for exercise? And why would they do that on Shabbos?
It's a fair question. Beats me. They might just need to. No, maybe they need to lead them for water. Maybe they need to lead them for.
Why not just for watering them?
Yeah. The only reason I thought not to say that is because camels, can go a long time without drinking water. So just wait a day and then take them out. It's a fair question. Not sure.
Maybe this was the kind of thing that was the habit of everyone doing.
I would imagine that's a solid premise right there. I can't say with certainty, but yeah. Man's got to do what a man's got to do. Camel's got to do what a camel's got to do. But yeah, it's a fair point. I cannot say with any conviction or certainty on any of the answers, with the exception potentially of taking them out for watering. Potentially. Yeah. Says the Mishnah Dalet Ein Chamor Yotze B'Mardas Bizman She'ena Kashura Lo. You are not allowed to take out a donkey with its saddle cloth if it has not been tied down properly. It says the Mishnah as well, V'lo B'Zug. And it cannot go out with its zug. It cannot go without with its bell. Afal Pishu Pakuk. Even if the bell has been plugged and it's not going to be making a noise. V'lo B'Sulam Shabbat Savaro. And not with a yoke around its neck. A ladder is a sulam, and it seems to be some kind of ladder-shaped yoke, which I think they explain would have been used as like a bandage for the donkey to go on top of the wound to prevent a donkey from touching the wound. So, so this kind of ladder-type contraption that would be attached to the donkey's neck. It would not be allowed to go out with that on Shabbos in a public setting, in a public place. And also not a strap that would be tied like a bandage tied around its leg, also to protect it or to heal it in some way. It wouldn't be allowed to go out with that. Says the Mishnah, chickens may not go out with these strings tied to them. These, I think the chutin, I think would be kind of decorative ribbons that would help identify the chickens, and not these straps that would go around their feet. And rams should not go out with wagons. Is that how it translated there? Yeah, wagon underneath their tails. It seems to be if there was a ram with a particularly heavy tail, which would be a bit of a handicap for the ram. So what they would have done is they would have tied it to some kind of like a, what would you call it? A little wagon. It's got wheels on it, and the heavy tail would rest on that, and it would be transported along as the ram would walk. So it was there as something to facilitate its handicap. So it shouldn't go out with one of these wagons on Shabbos in public. And the ewes are not supposed to go out with these chanunos, which were kind of smelling sticks. Translated there as hanun. I guess we all know what hanun is. So hanun seems to be some kind of incense stick that they would put up their noses so that it would make them sneeze, and by sneezing it would, help them get rid of any fleas or flies or whatever that had flown up into their noses. So apparently these sticks were a remedy to help them sneeze, but they shouldn't go out with those on Shabbos. And apparently the reason why males don't need that is because they have fewer fleas, because apparently they fight with each other, and so they're butting heads, and that allows the fleas to dislodge. So apparently it's only the female ewes that suffer from this need to have their noses cleared through these incense sticks. And when it comes to a calf, it should not go out with a small yoke, which seems to be the equivalent of training wheels for a cow. So they would put on these kind of practice yokes to help train them up for when they're going to have the real deal resting on them. So you shouldn't take out a calf with that. And you should not take out a cow with the skin of a hedgehog. Why would you take out a cow with the skin of a hedgehog at all? The reason is that they would have these pouches made out of porcupine spikes or hedgehog spikes, and they would put them on the udders of the animals, and that would stop insects and parasites or whatever from attacking the cow's udders. So it's a protective measure, but it is considered a burden for going out with on Shabbos. And it shouldn't go out with a strap which is between its horns. Says the Mishnah, Paraso shel Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, the cow of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, it was seen that he would take out this cow, or this cow would go out with straps between its horns, and it would seem that wasn't in full agreement with the approval of the rabbis. So what do we need to say over here? Yeah. So I don't have much more to say particularly on that. Although it says, I just saw in the commentary over here in the Bartanura, that the cow of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah wasn't actually his cow, it was his neighbor's cow. But on account of the fact that he didn't protest and stop his neighbor from doing this, it became known colloquially as his cow. And if I recall, the Gemara goes on to talk about all of these different people throughout history who have had different sins and different mistakes accredited to their name, just on account of the fact that they didn't protest, and just on account of the fact that they didn't stop other people from doing these things. So an interesting insight nonetheless. Mazel Tov, though, on completing the 5th perek of Masechet Shabbos, and we move on to the 6th perek of Masechet Shabbos, the items which women should or should not go out with We're dealing again with things that are either tachshitin, they are an adornment, or they are a masoy, or they are a burden, and therefore they wouldn't be allowed to go out with them on Shabbos. The concern is that if it is an adornment and it's particularly lovely, then people might be tempted to remove them and show them off in public. So that is why we have a bigger concern for women doing that, perhaps than we would for men. And again, because there's so many different types of things, that's why there's, we'll see there's so many different items that get talked about in the Mishnah. So the Mishnah says, what is a woman allowed to go out with, and what is a woman not allowed to go out with? A woman is not to go out. A woman is not allowed to go out with chutei semer, woolen band, wooden ribbons. Pishtan. These are things that would have been tied and incorporated into their hair. So they're not allowed to go out with these. And they're not allowed to go with straps around her head. She's not allowed to go with straps around her head. And she's also not allowed to be wearing these things when she goes to the mikveh, because they would be considered too tightly fastened to her head. And if they're considered too tightly fastened to her head, then the water of the mikveh cannot penetrate and touch all the parts of her body, which mikveh water needs to do in order for a woman to achieve a good dunk. So if she wanted to have these things in her hair, she would have to make sure they were loose first. And if they're loose, then the water can now pass freely and not impact the validity of her mikveh visit. Okie dokie. Says the Mishnah, she's not allowed to go out with a forehead band. Over there, frontlets. Okay. Velo b'sambutin, and she's not allowed to go out with head bangles. Bisman she'enan tefurim, if they are not first sewn on to whatever head covering she is wearing. But if they were sewn on to the head covering, then she would never remove it, because she wouldn't want to be seen out in public without her head covered. So if they're sewn in, then it's fine, because she won't run the risk of taking those off. Velo b'kavel, she should not go out with a kavel. A kavel seems to be a secondary covering that would go, it would essentially be the closest thing, I believe, to her head. So, although I've got here a secondary covering. All right. Nonetheless, it was an item. Sorry, yeah, my mistake. She shouldn't go out with this thing, because this is the extra head covering that she would have. So whatever she would have at the bottom, would never come off. But anything on top of that, you would have to be concerned that she would take it off in the public place and then end up carrying it. Says the Mishnah, Zahab. They used to have these beautiful golden tiaras, call it, that were designed to look like a golden city, perhaps like Yerushalayim, and it was a way of keeping the image of Yerushalayim close to you. So if they had this particularly beautiful piece of jewelry, they should not wear that out in public, again, because they might come to take it off. Velo b'katla, and they should not go out with necklaces. Velo b'nazamim, and they should not go out with nose rings. Velo b'tabas, shein aleha chosam, and she should not go out with a finger ring that has no chosam, no signet. There you go, no seal. Velo b'machat shein anakuva, she should not go out with a decorative needle that does not have an eye of the needle at the top of it or at the bottom of it, depending on which way you're holding it, I guess. However, says the Mishnah, but if she does go out with these things, then the Mishnah says that she would not be chayav a korban, meaning that these things are only forbidden as a safeguard by the rabbis to prevent, God forbid, women from making the mistake of carrying these things in public. So yeah, there are some people, by the way, that take these halachas quite strictly, even nowadays, in a place without name, and some women won't go out with jewelry. We actually see, though, in the Gemara that the rabbis who permitted this created a much more comfortable environment for women to be able to go out freer. And the Gemara talks about how when one of the rabbis permitted these different types of adornments and jewelry, that actually there was a marked increase in women coming out with these different adornments because they were now free to do so. Says the Mishnah in Mishnah Base, things which men should not come out with. Again, an Isser Midrabanan, preventative measures to stop men from carrying things in public. Says the Mishnah, Lo yetze ha'ish b'sandal ha'masuma. A man should not go out with a nail-studded sandal. And the Gemara goes on to talking about that this is not because necessarily of Hatzah, but it's actually because of it being dangerous to go out wearing these nail-studded sandals. And it tells stories about how at points in history when Jews were being oppressed by non-Jews, they would go and hide in caves. And there was one such episode where they went to do this. And somebody, there's a few different interpretations in the Gemara, but one interpretation is someone had put their shoe on backwards. Okay? And because they had their shoe on backwards, somebody saw a footprint that made it look like someone had gone out of the cave. And they all panicked, thinking that they were going to be discovered. And it created this whole uproar. And they all started panicking and running around and trampling on each other. And it says that many people died that day, then more than would have died if they'd fallen to the hands of these non-Jews. So as a safeguard to prevent injury, the rabbis decreed that they should not go out with these nail-studded sandals. Says the Mishnah, V'lo b'yachid bizman she'ein b'raglo makah. Person should not go out with only one shoe on his foot, and that's only if his foot is not injured. If his foot was injured, then it would be justified to go out with one shoe. And the Mishnah talks about whether that means that it's the foot that is injured or the foot that is injured, and whether the concern is that people will think he's carrying the other shoe. All of that gets discussed in the Mishnah. In the Gemara. Says the Mishnah continuing, V'lo bat tefillin, a person should not go out with tefillin. V'lo b'kameah, and not with an amulet. A kameah is are these amulets or charms that people would have written as they would have contained names of God and these kinds of things, and they would serve as a protection for people, or as a segula for people, or as people would wear it in order to get healed from a sickness or from an illness. So the Mishnah says you should not go out with an amulet bisman she'eino min mimcha. If it is untested and unproven as an effective amulet, then people should not use them should not go out with them on Shabbos. But if it was a proven and it was a tested amulet and it has healed people, or the person that's prepared it has got a reputation that you know it's going to work, then you would be allowed to have these things. But Lo Bashirian, says the Mishnah, that a person should not go out with certain types of armor, should not go out with a breastplate, V'lo Bakasa, not with a helmet, V'lo B'magafayim, and not with boots. Then Yatsa Enachayv Chatas. But as we said before, if a person was to go out with these things, then they would not be obligated to bring a korban. It's an Issur D'Rabbanan. It's a preventative measure made by the rabbis as a safeguard. Says the Mishnah in Mishnah Gimel. We're talking about now things which do carry a chiyuv chatas, a korban, if they were to do these things by accident. Says the Mishnah, Lo teitze isha b'machat hanakuva. A woman may not go out with a needle which is pierced. V'lo b'tabat sheyesh aleha chotam. Should not go out with a ring that has on it a seal or has on it a signet. V'lo b'kulyar. And she should not go out with a headpiece. So this was some kind of headpiece. Was it a cochlear brooch? Is a cochlear in the ear? Anyone know? Isn't the cochlear?
Is a cochlear a type of shell?
Is it not also part of your ear?
I think it's a shell.
You can have a cochlear implant.
Yeah. Part of your shell. Let's see if I've got a picture over here. No, I don't. That's helpful, isn't it? Okay. So kulia is a headpiece which people would not typically wear, but over there it says a cochlear brooch. Maybe it's some kind of ear thing. I don't know. V'lo b'koveles, says the Mishnah, a person should not go out with a koveles. A koveles was like a bag of some kind that contained spices which would smell. And the reason why they shouldn't go out wearing this, it would be like a primitive kind of perfume. The reason why you shouldn't wear it, apparently, is because only smelly women would wear these things. But maybe that's not the reason why, but maybe that's just what it is. It was some kind of odor removing pouch that people would tie around their necks. That's what a koveles seems to be. And says the Mishnah, "V'lo b'tzluchas shel palyaton," and not with a vial, vial, of perfume. Is that how it translated it over there as well? Vial, not with a perfume vial. So all these things a woman should not go out. And the Mishnah adds, "Ve'im yatzasa," and if she did, chayeres chatas, then it would be a biblical transgression, violation over here, according to Rabbi Meir. Chachamim potrim, Chachamim say no, it's forbidden, but you would be pater, you wouldn't have to bring a korban. In the instance of bakoveles, in the instance of this perfume chain, with its lochis shel palyaton, and in the instance of this this perfume vial. So whether it's the pouch with these spices to remove the smell, or whether it's this perfume vial that they would wear around the necks, according to the Chachamim, it would be forbidden, but only midrabanan, only rabbinically. And the halacha is like the Chachamim. Okay, Mishnah Daled, we move on, and we're talking about armor again, but not armor that they would wear. So we saw before the helmet and the breastplate and these things. So these are things that you would have to be carrying as part of your armory. So the Mishnah says, "Lo yetze ha'ish lo b'sayif." A man may not go out carrying a sword. Lo b'keshes. Oh, let's scroll down. Don't want to spoil your surprise. Lo b'keshes, and should not go out carrying his bow and arrows, presumably. V'lo b'tris, and not with a shield. V'lo ba'ala, and not with his baton. V'lo b'ramach, and not carrying his spear. V'im yatzah chayav chatas. And if he does, then you got a problem, because you're going to have to bring a korban chatas. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Rabbi Eliezer says that these things are going to be permitted because this is the way that you would wear them. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, tachshitin hein lo. For him, these would be tachshitin, these would be adornments. This is how you've got to wear them. However, v'chachamim omrim, einon ela gnai. It would be a disgrace to be seen out wearing these. Shneimar, v'chitasu chavosam le'itim v'chanisoseihem lemazmeros. Says the pasuk in Isaiah, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Lo yisagoy el goy cherev v'lo yilmedu od milchama. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. So according to the Chachamim, they should not be carrying around these things. They are not ornaments. They are terrible things to have to walk around with. And that is why when Mashiach comes, these items are not going to continue to be paraded around as adornments that we are proud of. They're going to be destroyed. They're going to be turned into plowshares and pruning hooks because we're ashamed of weaponry. These are not tafshitin according to the Rabbanim. Says the Mishnah, biris. What about biris? How's it? A garter. So it would be these metal garters that would go around women's legs to help keep their socks in place, apparently. So says the Mishnah, biris would be tahora. They would be tahor. They would not be able to be makabel tumah. They're not subject to ritual impurity. V'yotzin bar b'Shabbos, and a woman would be allowed to wear one on Shabbos. Kavalim, however, the chain that would somehow attach these metal garters, they would be susceptible to tumah, to ritual impurity, and v'ein yotzin bar b'Shabbos, and you would not be allowed to walk out with them on Shabbos. So it would seem as follows: that anything which is there to serve the person would be mekabel tumah, would have the propensity or the ability to contract tumah. But anything which is there to serve something else. So, for example, the clamps that we were talking about, the biris, they're there to keep the socks in place. So they're not there for the person, they're there for the socks. And that is why they are not mekabel tumah, and that is why you'd be allowed to go out with them on Shabbos. But since the chain would be there to serve the person, they would be receptible to contracting tumah, and therefore that is why there's a difference in the halacha. It depends on whether these things are functions of the person or functions for another item. So there we go. Glad we cleared that up. Says the Mishnah in Mishnah Hey. Yotza isha b'chutei seyar. Strings that are made out of hair. Oh, hello. You haven't told me to scroll down again. Strings that are made out of hair, which would get braided into their own hair, because they are not extremely tightly fastened to a person's hair. That is why we see the following halacha. Yotza isha b'chutei seyar. A woman may go out with strings that have been woven into her hair. I guess you could call these like hair extensions of some kind. Bein mishela, whether these hairs belong to her. I'm guessing they'd have been detached and then re-woven into her hairdo. Or bein mishel chaverta, whether they're some kind of shaitel hair. Bein mishel behema, whether it was hair that has come from an animal. Uvatotefes, or totefes, which is like a hairband, or as it translates it, they're frontlets. Uvasambutin bisman shehin tufurin, or head bangles if they have been sewn in to her primary head covering. If they have been, then she'd be allowed to go out with them, because there's not going to be the risk that she's going to remove them. A kabul, right, we saw this kabul before, it was kind of a wool, it was kind of another covering for her head. Should be allowed to go out with a kabul and should be allowed to go out with a peah nachris, which we translate as a wig or a shaitel. You'd be allowed to go out into a courtyard with that, but the implication there would be that she should not go out, I guess, into the public domain, according to the halacha in the Mishnah at least. When it comes to cotton pads that would be tied to her ear, which would help absorb earwax, with a moch shabasandala, or a pad that would be used as a gauze or a bandage to absorb infection or absorb pus from a wound. Oh, we're getting gruesome tonight, lads. With a moch shehiskina lenidasa, or a moch or a pad which is there to absorb menstrual blood. So with these things, because there's no chance that they're going to be removed, it would be okay for her to go out with. Says the Mishnah about pilpel. When it comes to pepper, with a gargir melach, or a lump of salt, with a chol davar shetiten lechol letoch piha, or anything that she would put into her mouth, as long as she's not put these in. These seem to be, what would be the word, remedies and things that could help you heal on Shabbos. So you wouldn't be allowed to put them into your mouth for the purpose of healing on Shabbos, but otherwise they would be allowed. V'im nafal, if they had fallen out of your mouth, the Mishnah says lo sachazir, you would not be allowed to put them back. It says the Mishnah shein taseves for shein shel zahav, a false tooth or a golden tooth. Rabbi Matir, Rabbi Yehuda Anasi permits for these to be kept in your mouth over Shabbos, to walk out in public. But Chachamim say these would not be allowed to keep in, and the reason apparently is because she might take it out in public because it's gold. Or another interpretation might be that she may be embarrassed because she looks different, and so she would take it out on Shabbos. So because of these concerns, the din in the Mishnah is one should not take these things out. Says the Mishnah, should not go out with them in a public domain. Says the Mishnah in Mishnah Vav, Yotzin Besela Sha'al Hadsinis. You can go out with a coin, a selah coin, which has been fastened to a tzinis, which says callus there. I have the translation as a bunion, so it would seem that the metal of the coin would be helpful to absorb moisture from a wound, and so what they would apparently do is fasten coins to these types of wounds. Says the Mishnah, Habanot, Ketanot, Yotzot, V'chutin, V'afilu b'kisnin sheba'azneihen. Says the Mishnah, young girls may go out with threads and even with chips in their ears. I guess these are like earrings, but not necessarily exactly like earrings. These were things that would stop an ear piercing from closing up, and so it wouldn't be kind of like a beautiful piece of jewelry, but it would be there instead as a protective measure for the ear. Again, these are all things that we're talking about with jewelry and things like that, but there's also opinions that don't forbid these things. So even if in a place without an earring, there are still opinions that do allow going out of into public settings with jewelry in/on. It's always helpful to check with your local halachic authority. Says the Mishnah, Arvios Yotzos Reulos. When it comes to women from Saudi Arabia, these Arabian women or in Arabian places, they can go out veiled. Umadios Perufos. And Median women may go out with their cloaks wrapped around them. And the truth is that anyone can do this, not just women, but Chachamim was speaking in the ways of the prevailing customs of the time. And so that is why these things would apply to men as much as they would to women, but again, using the colloquialisms of the time. Says the Mishnah in Mishnah Zion. Oh, plowing our way through. Says the Mishnah, Porefes al ha'even va'al ha'egoz va'al ha'matbeya uvilvad shelo tifrof lechatchila b'Shabbos. A woman may weight down or fasten down her cloak with a stone or a nut or a coin, as long as she has not attached it on Shabbos, as long as it was ready in place before Shabbos. So I guess this was some kind of way of making sure their clothing would be fastened. They didn't have the same kind of button situations that we have. So these were mechanisms or ideas that they had to be able to fasten things. So as long as you weren't putting these things initially on Shabbos, it would be okay to be able to go out with them on Shabbos. In Mishnah Ches, we actually deal with different limbs and different things that people with that disabled people or people without certain limbs, how they would be able to move around on Shabbos. So it says the Mishnah, Hakiteya. Let's scroll down. Hakiteya, translates it here as a crippled person, somebody without a leg. Yotze bekav shalot divrei Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says that a person who does not have a leg is allowed to go out with a false leg on Shabbos, because that for him is serving as his leg. Rabbi Yossi, however, would forbid this. He would say that it's forbidden because they could equally use a crutch, apparently, to get around as a support, and therefore, according to Rabbi Yossi, this false leg would be an unnecessary burden, because the person could use a crutch instead. V'im yesh lo beis kibul ketutin tameh. And tangentially, if that is a word, I'll show you the picture over here, what we're dealing with. So these false feet over here, I guess they had these wooden carved false feet, which they would move around with. And if it has what's called a base kibble, if it has an area here to receive the socket joint, so because it has that receptacle as part of the shape of the false limb, so if it has that, then it has the ability to be mekabel tuma. So because of this receptacle that would be a part of the shape of the false limb, so it can also be mekabel tuma. Says the Mishnah, samochos shalom. Samochos, they translate it as supports. Okay, they seem to be these. We have to also understand that they didn't have the same kind of technological innovation. So I'll show you a picture of these samochos. Apparently, this is how people would have had to move around all those hundreds and thousands of years ago. They seem to be shin plates, leg plates, that would assist in a person being able to walk around without damaging their legs. So these leg guards, they have the capacity to be mekabel tumas midras. They are able to become tameh, but with a particular type of tameh that comes from impure people sitting on them, because they are items that people would rest on and would rest their body weight on. They have the ability to contract this type of tumah from a person who is impure. But v'yozim b'hem b'Shabbos, but a person is allowed to go out with them on Shabbos, v'nichnasim b'hem b'Azara, and a person would be allowed to go up all the way into the courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash wearing these, even though a person's not supposed to wear shoes when they go to the Beis Hamikdash. These things would not have the halachic status of shoes, so people could wear those going into the Beis Hamikdash. Says the Mishnah, kisei, which is a wheelchair. His chair, the samachos shelo, and the supports for the chairs. So they wouldn't necessarily have wheels on them, but it's the equivalent of the an early prototype again of a wheelchair. That's what it would look like apparently. Am I trying to get the angles right there? No, that way. There we go. So it would be a kind of seat that they would support their body weight on, and then these blocks on the side that they would use to, to move across terrain. So with those kinds of supports and those kinds of chairs, Tamei and Medras, they can also contract this Tumas Medras, which comes about from people placing their body weight on them if they are impure. Ve'ein yotzin b'hem b'Shabbos, and a person should not go out with this on Shabbos. Ve'ein nichnasin b'hem b'Azara, and a person should not go into the Beis Hamikdash, into the Beis Hamikdash on using this apparatus on Shabbos. And it seems the reason is that not only would it be used for a person to have some element of mobility, but it could also be used to just sit back and rest. And so because apparently of the varied usage, it has a stricter halachic application. And the final din in Mishnah Ches over here, my favorite, uncut min, which seems to be some kind of fancy dress. Where are we? Over there. Some kind of donkey costume, or perhaps, let me get it right, or perhaps this kind of mask costume over here. So these kinds of things, says the Mishnah. Let me get the camera angles right. So ankatmin tahorin ve'ein yotzin bahem. These things would not be mekabel tuma, and a person should not go out wearing these things on Shabbos. So I guess if Halloween falls on Shabbos, don't go out wearing these costumes. That was a joke. Mishnah Tes, thanks for laughing. Habanim yotzin baksharim. Let's scroll down. What about the boys? They may go out with these sharim, these laces or these garlands. Uvanei malachim bazugim, and children of royalty may go out with bells. Achol adam, and the truth is that this applies to everybody. But again, ela shedibru chacham b'hove. They were talking in the talking in a way according with the prevailing customs of the time. It says Mishnah Yud, to finish off the perek for tonight. Yotzin b'beitzas hachargol. A person may go out with a locust's egg. Why would a person want to go out with a locust's egg? So, from now until the end of the perek, we are talking about different types of remedies and all that kind of thing. And actually, My apologies over here. I've just discovered that my notes for the last Mishnah are in this one. So let me just check if I. Yeah. So just going back to the previous Mishnah for a second, these laces that the boys could go out with, or that children could go out with, it seems to be that it was some kind of comforter. These kasharim, these laces or these straps belonging to their parent, so that they would always feel like their parent was there, and it would help soothe them and it would help settle them. And with the bells, if it was a normal practice to have bells on clothing, then as we said, it would apply for everybody to be able to go out with them. Okay, so back to our Mishnah Yud. Yotzin b'beitz hasachargol, someone going out with the eggs of a locust or a grasshopper. So it seems that these eggs, when they were tied to the ear, they could heal an earache. So therefore, according to the Mishnah, you'd be allowed to go out with them. With a shein shual, or a fox's tooth. So it says in my notes, if you could not sleep, you wore a dead fox's tooth. And if you slept too much, you would wear the tooth of a live fox. With a masmer minat saluv. Or you can go out with a nail from the cross of a crucified convict. A nail from a gallows. Mishum refuah divrei Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says that these things are okay to wear on Shabbos because of their medical effectiveness. According to Rabbi Meir, therefore, you could wear them on Shabbos as long as you had arranged them and set them up before Shabbos. However, the Chachamim say, Af b'chol aser. It would be forbidden even to use these things during the week. Why? Mishum darchei ha'emori. Because these things are invalid medications. They are the way of the Amorites. And we are forbidden from adopting the customs of a nation like the Amorites. And therefore, since these things are not medically sound, and they're not scientifically sound, and they're not, it's all just, witchcraft, whatever. So therefore, according to the Chachamim, not only would you not be allowed to wear them on Shabbos, you'd also not even be allowed to wear them during the week. That's all for tonight, but we will see you next time on Mishnah Mastery.